motion?
I'd like to pull item F5 and move to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Markwart?
Yes.
Zinker?
Yes.
Guy?
Yes.
Oban?
Yes.
Bakken?
No. Motion carried. All right, moving on to the regular,
Commissioner Guy.
I'm sorry,
pulled it.
Commissioner Guy?
Well, I'm curious why we would consider appointing someone to the Renaissance Zone who has been so vocally against the program. It doesn't sound like a very constructive appointment to me.
My rationale for appointing Mr. Goverlow to that was diverse representation for that program. Of the other candidates, the financial industry was well represented. The building industry or the architectural industry was well represented. And there was another diverse voice and a different perspective that I think would serve that entity well.
There is no architect on the authority, so architecture is not represented.
Trying to think back. Did we have 3 candidates for that, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
Or 4? Okay, there was a 4th. Well, yeah, that was a reappointment, though. Yeah. So, still, for me, it was a question of having different perspectives on that.
Well, if he wants to provide his perspective, he can come and testify at the public hearings, but I don't see that it would be a constructive appointment to the authority.
Well, then I would like some more candidates for that position. Then, Commissioner Markwart.
Mayor and Commissioners, Mr. Zinker, is that your portfolio?
Yes, it is.
Did you have any thoughts or concerns with Mr. Grevelo or anyone else being on there?
No, well, I mean, I guess I don't personally. I mean, I did. Dustin did reach out to me, and we talked about that. I'll be honest. The last few Renaissance Zone meetings we've talked about signs and frontages, of buildings. We do have one of the items on the agenda for Tuesday is the 630 Main Street, which is the empty lot that has been empty since I was a little kid. But other than that, I mean, perspective is fine. I don't. People's opinion is people's opinion. I'm not going to, I never got to choose or out of any of the other ones that were on there. I do remember seeing the list, but I didn't provide my opinion. But if the mayor wants Dustin to be on it, I guess at this point I don't have a problem with it. I mean, anything we do is open and transparent. Anything that happens at that meeting is those are public meetings as well. So anybody from the public can come. Those agenda items are all on the city website. There's really nothing there to hide. I don't know. I mean,
I just wanted your 2 cents. Thank you.
Commissioner Oban?
So, I guess I was curious, and I noticed that Dustin is here. Is it appropriate to ask him to come up?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Good evening.
Before he does, can I make one statement? I did receive a call from a individual to recommend Dustin be on the Renaissance Zone. I never talked to that person to say whether I can say it verbally on mic, but the person that gave me that recommendation, I have a great deal of respect for. So with that being said, I'll let Dustin go.
And I guess I'll ask a question: is knowing what you've stated publicly, I would be curious of why you want to serve.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my thinking is that this, like all programs at any level of government, should have analysis from both sides to look at both sides of the ledger. And I was informed that the authority is looking at ROI, return on investment type study on this program, which is something that I've been looking at for many years, like 5+ years. I don't have an agenda for being on the authority. I think that my role is I think is more of as an analytical person to look at how we're doing things, if it makes sense, and go from there. I really expect to approach it a lot the same way that I approached the Special Assessment Task Force. Frankly, the plan that came out of that task force, it wasn't my idea, but I was fine with it, and I thought it was a great idea. So, it is what it is.
Thank you. That's all I have for him.
Anyone else?
Well, pardon me. We have a finite period of time left on the Renaissance zone. I believe it's set to expire in July of 2022. So we need to really roll up our sleeves and get as much done as we can before it expires, because there is no precedent for a second extension of the Renaissance zone. Fargo's will come due before ours does, so we can kind of see what happens there. And the legislature could change the rules. The legislature could take the program away at some point. So I guess I would like to see the authority made up of people who have technical expertise in this area. We rely on them for the downtown design review, which I thought was a mistake when we did that. I didn't think it was a wise thing to do, but we did it anyway. And we don't have an architect on the authority right now. We don't have a design professional sitting on the authority board right now, and yet we have one that applied. And we stepped over them and selected someone who is openly hostile to the program. And if that...
I don't know if I'd call them openly hostile to the program, Commissioner Guy.
Oh, yeah. I've not heard Mr. Gavrilo speak positively about it, ever. That it's a bad program, the old saw about picking winners and losers. So I don't think that this is a constructive appointment, and I don't think it serves the authority well.
I don't view it as an appointment that is restrictive to the mission of what that group does. My concern is more of the fiscal responsibility and the fact that we need to do the right programs, projects, not doing projects for the sake of getting as much done as we can before it goes away. It's more a question of doing the right projects to me.
There is a very, very good scoring system that's used to score every project. There are no favorites picked. If a project doesn't pass the scoring test, it doesn't get approved. So if it doesn't fit in the program and it doesn't score enough through that process, I don't know how much more objective you could be about these projects. But my point is, over time, if we keep appointing people who are not interested in moving the program forward and getting as much done as we can before it expires, you could really hamstring the program, and I don't want to see that happen.
Well, in my discussions with Mr. Gavrilo, that was about as far from his intent as possible, and he is interested in working with that and working through that, but it's the fiscal responsibility side and making sure that we're picking the right projects. And through my discussions and my history with Mr. Gavrilo, he is good at pouring through numbers. He's good at taking a metered approach on things, and I think that's something that would add to this, the Renaissance Zone Authority.
I can't agree with that, but.
Mayor, commissioners, yes. So I think one thing that we need to talk about too is that before the project even comes to the Renaissance Zone Committee, staff has already analyzed it and gone through to make sure that it meets all of their criteria. So to Commissioner's Guy's point, the scoring system is vetted before it makes it to that table. So from that perspective, I mean, if staff realizes that, hey, it doesn't meet all the criteria, it doesn't even get offered to the Renaissance Zone Authority or the downtown review thing. So I just want to put that out there as well. So I'd still question how one vote might derail a scenario.
I don't think one vote would derail a scenario. I think one vote might be able to add a little bit more breadth to a project. Commissioner Oban?
So I guess I have one more question for you, and then I'll be done, and I will not. Stating publicly, do you support the Renaissance Zone?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Oban, I think that when it comes to public policy issues and those of us who split our careers as far as doing, I like to consider myself half lobbyist, half journalist. Yes, I have positions on public policy matters, but once those decisions have been made, then it's my job and your job to make sure that it's implemented in the way that it's intended and the way that it's best serving the public. So whether or not I supported or opposed certain bills in the legislature, I do not believe will influence whether I can operate and serve on a committee such as this.
Okay, thank you. And then I'll make one final comment then. I guess Commissioner Guy brings up an interesting point, and I guess Commissioner Zanker does as well. And I appreciate Dustin's work on the Special Assessment Task Force, and I think you did certainly brought a different perspective on that. And you do have skill sets that the mayor had pointed out. On this specific group, I'm not sure that's the skill set that is best needed for this group. I mean, I would go back to the fact that if it's vetted already, then I'm not sure crunching through the numbers after the fact is necessarily what is best for what this position is. Certainly not downplaying what your skill set is and bringing that to it. I'm just thinking that maybe this appointment is not utilizing your skill set. And knowing that there isn't an architect on there, which is a different skill set, which I think may suit this group a little bit better, I guess I am leaning towards going back and maybe voting against this appointment. Again, certainly not questioning your skill set because, and I've seen it, and it's certainly appreciated, and I understand where you're coming from. Just in this position, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It may just not be the skill set that this appointment is needed.
One more
Commissioner
thing.
Zanker?
So during those meetings, we never ever talk about any financials, about the cost of the project or that kind of thing. I mean, the few things that we've talked about have been recessed, walls recessed, doorways, entries recessed a little bit, signs, colors, that type of stuff. So, again, whether, what kind of colors, pastels or whatever you like, that's kind of what we talk about. And the committee does a very good job of getting through that and vetting those things. So, I guess at this point, if after what Dustin's heard and if he can't offer any financial support to it, do you still want to be on the committee?
Yes, I'm still interested.
Any other discussion? What are the wishes of the commission?
Move to disapprove the appointment.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Markwart,
No.
Zanker,
No.
Guy,
Yes.
Oban,
Yes.
Bakken,
No.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, what are the, call the roll, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Guy,
No.
Oban,
No.
Bakken,
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Goblo. Moving on to the regular